So, morning everybody. For those of you who haven't met me before, I'm Becky Bowers. I'm the Northern Sales Manager here at Data Direct, and this is Ray Luke, our Chief Technical Officer. Just wanted to say, first of all, thank you for joining our live Q&A session this morning on our new SmartMister sanitising solution. Normally, we've done this now for the last 2 or 3 weeks, and normally it runs a little bit over the 11 o'clock mark, but obviously with it being Armistice Day today, we're going to make sure that we're finished by the latest 5 to 11 so that we can all get away. The way this is going to work this morning is Ray will do a quick overview of how the SmartMister works. During this, everybody will be muted, as you guys are at the moment. If you've got any questions, if you could direct them to the admin team on the chat, and I'll make sure that Ray gets asked any questions that you guys want to ask. At the end of the meeting, if there's any questions that haven't been asked that you want to ask, please contact either your account manager or myself or Ray, and we'll come back to you. The main email address is info@smartmister.co.uk. So we'll get started. So over to you, Ray.
Okay, well, to introduce the SmartMister, it's a device that takes hydrochloric acid, which is an organic weak acid, mostly water. We then put that into this box in a 5-litre capacity. It uses ultrasonic sound waves to atomize the liquid into incredibly fine particles. It then spreads into the entire room, about 30 to 50 cubic meters, and we distribute a disinfectant and sanitizer to all of the surfaces, and we do that to an international standard. So basically there is a standard that says that this desk has been sanitized to a certain level, and effectively it's an operating theatre level. So we take air through this, through a filter at the back of it, which is an activated carbon filter and HEPA filter. We run it through a UVC light internally. We pull all the air through and then mix it with the hydrochloric acid and distribute it around in the evening. So when you come in the morning, your entire room is settled and it's sanitized all the surfaces. Right down to if it was in a classroom and there was a desk, you would do the chewing gum underneath the desk. So it sanitizes all surfaces. That's
so
right.
On the top and underneath?
Yep. And it has a software app that allows you to schedule it so that you can turn it on at the evening. So say 4 o'clock in the evening, turns off at 4:30, 5 o'clock. So when you come in the morning at 7, 8, everything is health and safety, it's sanitized for you. It's all good.
Fab. So, and just for example, with our offices, obviously me and Ray aren't actually in the same office today. Ray's down at Finch Hampstead and I'm up at Bradford. We've got 2 of the machines here and Ray's got a couple down there, but Ray can control what's happening through the app here and obviously down south at the same time.
Yeah, there's scenarios where, say for instance, you've scheduled to do maintenance work in your building, the electrician's coming to replace your old lights with new LED lights, and you want to make sure on a Wednesday evening it's turned off. You can go into the app and schedule it on so that it turns off on a Wednesday. And if for some reason they change that Wednesday to Thursday, you can just basically take the app and go off, and it doesn't run, it runs at a different time. So it's a pretty good thing. You can control multiple sites, and it'll let you know when your reservoir is empty and you need to refill the system as well.
So what kind of coverage would one of these do?
To meet the surface sanitizing World Health Organization and British standards, you've got to put so many millilitres per cubic volume of air out, and the system's calibrated so that in normal British temperatures and normal humidity in offices, it's calibrated so that it will deliver 30 cubic meters in 1 hour. So if you've got an 80 cubic meter room, you may have to leave it on for longer to do that. And in the manual, it talks about how to place the unit and how to do bigger rooms or smaller rooms than the 30 cubic meters. You multiply the length by the breadth, multiply it by a number. It tells you in hours how long to leave it on. do the size of rooms. But it's all calibrated for 30 cubic meter blocks, and then you just divide those up.
So realistically, in larger offices, open plan offices, you'll probably need more than one of these in there.
Sometimes, like we've got an open plan office, which is more like 110 cubic meters, and we've only got the one device because it will cover all of that. But there's no obstacles in the way, that there's no separate little rooms with locked fire doors and things. So in our case, we can just leave it on for longer. But if you've got a room that's made up of all different individual little rooms and with fire doors in front, etc., you may end up needing multiple of the units. But it's pretty flexible in how many meters you can cover. And if you've got a smaller room, there's a mode on this that will adjust for small rooms and deliver it in a different way. So if you're just trying to do a small kitchen, say, then there's a mode that will adjust just to deliver really small rooms as well. There's a sensor on the back of it that reads the humidity and the temperature of the room, and then will adjust what's coming out of the system, how much heat that it applies to it, and the velocity coming out, and how thin it makes the mist through the ultrasonic to deliver for different sizes of rooms. So it's pretty flexible.
So realistically as well, I mean, obviously this machine in itself is actually just sanitizing surfaces. However, and an overnight kind of system that we're using overnight, but it could help to enable, for example, one classroom goes in, the surfaces are already sanitized, they come out, the SmartMister goes on, and it sanitizes the surfaces again.
You can run it at night time. It will take all the, say, pollen out of the air, it will take dust out of the air, it will take pathogens, viruses out of the air. They become inert, and over time they'll settle onto the carpet, the surfaces, and then you wipe them clean and vacuum them up. But if you want to do a top up, we've got some premises that will say turn this on for 15 minutes, say, when they have a lunch break, to the top up during the day. So there's nothing to stop you doing that. It's only that to get to the government regulations, you've got to get so much in the air, and that so much can put a fog in the air, and that fog can be thick to see through, and for some people may be uncomfortable to breathe in. I've sat in a room for 3.5 hours in a small, tiny room with all the doors and windows taped up with this for, on full belt, and I didn't get uncomfortable. But you might get people with, say, asthma that if they sat in the room for 3 hours, might start to fill their lungs up, and they feel it heavy on the lungs. Won't do them harm, but we're not a doctor and can't prescribe it.
No.
Yes, you can top it up during the day.
So that's a big question then. So is the product safe?
Yes, it's hydrochloric acid is the thing that's in all mammals. So if you cut your skin, your body sends hydrochloric acid to the wound. And so if I say cut my hand there, it will send it to the wound, it oxidizes it and basically heals it from within. And what we've done is take what mammals produce naturally and bottled it and turned it into a sanitizer. So it's good for your skin. It's used on cheese production now. It's used on corn on the cob. It's used on apples. So if you buy apples from Sainsbury's, it's already sprayed with this. They have a fogging solution to do it, but it's sprayed with this. So it's a natural organic product. It has an organic rating as well. So
if somebody, like for example, because we obviously use them here, so if I left an apple out overnight and the sanitizer in the offices with the SmartMister was used overnight, I could come back in and eat it in the morning.
It won't change the taste, and it just means that instead of, if you put an apple out in a normal room in the summer where there's lots of pollen and there's lots of mushroom spores in the air, the apple will degrade and start to go brown, etc., within, say, a week. Whereas this, it won't degrade within a month. It'll actually help to preserve it because it's creating a sterile environment around it with no mushroom spores attacking it. And the same with your surface. If you've got your mouse lying, you haven't been in the place, your office for a week, when you go back to that, the surface of that mouse, is a hostile environment for any bacteria or any germs that want to try and eat upon it and grow. So it's safe. It's used in plant production to make plants grow quicker as well. So there's many examples of where it's been used for a long time. It's invented in the first.
There's a plant behind me in the office upstairs, and literally it has gone mad since we've started using the SmartMister.
Yeah.
Literally gone mad.
Yeah, any green leaf plant where it's shiny on one side and dull on the other side will accelerate the growth by about 4 to 6 times, and it'll be much healthier as well, because there is no bugs and there's no mushroom spores trying to eat the plant when it's alive.
Right.
They've died off, and there's a very thin moisture that's only 5 microns thick, so the plant can absorb it quickly. So the plant gets a really good environment, and it doesn't get any hostile invaders, so it grows quicker.
Okay. So there's a lot of talk at the moment within the last 6 months. Obviously, a lot of things have changed as far as the way that we're looking after officers and various other things. As far as the one thing that we've all heard about is this fogging. How is it similar? How does it differ?
Very dramatically. So a fogger is a device that looks something like that. So you wander around with this device, and then you turn it on. Some of them are hydraulic, some are ultrasonic, but it squirts a wet solution into a room. And basically it'll take, say, mostly a disinfectant as opposed to an organic product. It squirts that round, and then hazmat team, breathing apparatus, because you can't stay in the room long with it. They do a room, and then you have to go in with the cleaning crew afterwards to wipe all the surfaces down, remove all the moisture out of it, and then take out. So it's normally about a 3-day process. So if you're a care home and you're told that this room someone had COVID in it, and you need to now sanitize it with the fogger, you close the room down for 3 days to 4 days. It's a whole team that goes in. It's generally about £6,000. And then you've got to take things out like books, computers, and any other products that can warp with moisture. So fogging is an invasive thing that generally uses a different chemical reaction. You can get a different type of fogging where it puts a different disinfectant in that you can go into the room about an hour, 2 hours afterwards, but it doesn't meet any of the government regulations for sanitation, so you still have to do a cleaning exercise afterwards, so it's very labour intensive and costly again. So
whereas again with the SmartMister, the 30 cubic square meters, the machine goes on for an hour, and literally
it's an automated system with not any of the downsides. It's a dry system. Although the product is in as a liquid, when it comes out, it's thinner and lighter than air. So it takes the humidity of the room up to roughly what it would be in the summer. So we get to the humidity up to 68% relative to temperature. And that then settles overnight, and it cools down, and it's pulled to the carpet. So it's a dry system we use.
Rather than with the fogging. How is it similar to the UV lighting?
So a UV light works in short to mid radio waves that come out, and they excite the ions in the air. So when there's moisture in the air, they excite that. Viruses stick to that, and a UV light, what it'll do is it'll vibrate the DNA out of the organism that's in the air. So if you put a UV light on a wall, you've got a certain distance that it will do. But a UV light wouldn't do a product underneath the desk. So if you've got a classroom and there's chewing gum under the desk with saliva on it that's full of viruses, a UV light can't get into there because it's in the shadow of it. So a UV light is good at cleaning, making the particles in the air inert, so it kills off pathogens that are alive. But there's a lot of things in the air that are not alive that it just leaves. And what this does is that if you have a UVC light solution, if you run this at night, your UV light will work much better during the daytime, because you've already cleaned out the heavy particles, you've already cleaned out the mushroom spores and things, so you're only left with what comes out of people's breath, and the carbon monoxide has a lot of moisture to it, and the UV light would hit that and sanitize it. So it would make the UV light system more efficient.
Right.
It's a different way of doing it. This will pre-clean the office, the surfaces, underneath the surfaces, and the UV light will clean when people are working at that height. So if I'm sitting here and I'm breathing out, the UV light will clean that part of it, but it's not cleaned underneath and down on the carpet.
Okay.
That's a whole subject. I could go into that and the ionizers for a long time.
Okay. So the one thing that at Data Direct we've tried to do over the recent months is to try and find solutions for you guys to be able to sell into your customers. And obviously with the SmartMister, it's a complete business machine that you guys can not only sell to your customers to keep them safe, use in your own businesses to keep safe, but also it's a product that you can utilize in a very similar way to what you're doing with the copiers. So it's not just a one-off sale. The SmartMister solution as well is something that is added into it. There's also a maintenance kind of side of it as well, which Ray will go into now. And there's also the particle sensor as well. So it's not just a one-off product that is going to be sold into your customer and away you go. So if we could just have an explanation on the cleaning process, Ray.
The system takes 5.3 litres of solution inside it. When it drops down and it's about to run out, and it's about to run out, at that point what we suggest you do is you clean the transducer inside. There's a white disc that will build up with a powder, it's like a white crystal powder, and you basically take the lid off, you take the reservoir out, empty out the residue, and then take a cloth, wipe that round, and once you wiped it round, spray it with a solution, wipe it round again, and then we have an ultrasonic toothbrush cleaner. Wipe round with that, repeat that one more time, and that's it, clean. If you do that, the calibration and the parts per million that we've made it deliver will all remain within tolerance. If you don't do it straight away, it will get to when it starts to get to 80% of its tolerance, it'll then give you a warning that it can't deliver the correct amount to meet the BS number. But basically clean it once a month or once every 2 months is enough to make sure that it's good and it's functioning properly.
I mean, and ultimately, this is a product that nobody else has got. This is a Data Direct product that we are literally just offering out to our dealers. For you, something for you guys that's extra. We know how hard times have been just lately for you guys to sell. So there's no competition other than yourselves out there to get out there and sell this.
No. There's people that have adapted foggers that are designed to grow mushrooms, and they've adapted those to deliver, but they're not calibrated to deliver the certain amounts of parts per million to meet the government regulations. So we do a test afterwards. So if someone says, I want you to prove that you've clinically cleaned this surface, this mouse, this computer is clinically clean, then normally what you had to do before was do a swab test, basically take one of these things, and then you swab an area or an object, put it back in, break the vial, shake it like crazy, send it off to a lab, and £2,000 later and a couple of days later, you get a result back, and that gives you a score. And there's an international standard for scoring that proves how clean it is. So you clean that area, and then that will then say, well, yes, tick, I've managed to sanitize this area to a thing. So the foggers that are out there and adapted units don't try to deliver it that way. They just try to sanitize the air, which is less solution and less everything. So it doesn't do a surface sanitizer, and it's not to regulations. So we do a little sticker that goes out, and you put that on your desk, and has a date, time, and an ATP test. So you have an asset number, an APT test. Put that sticker on a certain area, and then you can keep a log and recording of you checked this room on this date, this asset was done, it was tested, and you've done a test every few months or whatever time you want.
So that's going into the two things, isn't it? So we've got, obviously, we've got the particle sensor, and we've also got a testing system. So with the SmartMister going in, firstly, we can look at the particle sensor.
So if you, say for instance, you've got a room and the room's got offshoots of it, it's not a straightforward, straight room that you can turn this on in the corner and watch the mist come out and then a few minutes later see it in the other part of the room. You can take this handheld sensor, and then what you do with this is that this will show you when this number goes above 47. I can explain the numbers later, but if it goes above 47, you've reached the level that is required for this to be in the air that will sanitize your skin. Yeah. So all my skin in real time is being sanitized. That thing's on, I don't know if you can see it through the camera, but it's on, and it's filling this room up. So these numbers will start to rise up, and it's 140 now, 150. So it's basically, when that gets to 114 in this scale, it's basically got to the level where my surface of this desk is being sanitized to government regulations. So I can walk around the room and with this and go, yes, it's reaching here. Yes, it's reaching here. Oh, actually, after it's been on for half an hour, it's not reaching this little kitchen area. So you might need another unit outside.
So this is actually quite a good sales tool when you're actually going out and obviously selling these machines to your customers.
Great, because you can go to you can show a customer the first time you're installing it, going, look, it's reaching here, and I know we need to leave this on for an hour, but it's only been on for 6 minutes, and it's already got to the government level. So right now, any viruses, any spores that touch this surface will die. Yeah. And then it's, you've got a proof method that it's actually reaching an area. And then the next question you get is, well, if I do that, how safe is this coming out? And that's where I normally go, I'll put my eyes in it and I'll breathe in, and, all that's happening is my skin's going to get softer. So it's not warm, it's not steam. It's something that's very good for you. Makes your hair shiny, makes your skin good. So it's perfectly safe that way. And then they walk around with this and go, right, it's been on for 8 minutes now. Oh, look, it's actually reaching this area. Yeah. Because this is thinner and lighter than air, it will travel everywhere the air gets to, down behind a bookshelf, a light switch, everywhere.
So even in store cupboards, just for example, with everyone's got a warehouse with toner in, etc., it will get into the where the toner is and around each box.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a sensor on the back of it that if I set this to, I've multiplied the length and the breadth of the room, and it says to leave it on for 1 hour and 6 minutes, say, and I've set this up through the app to run for 1 hour, 6 minutes. And then for some reason, the room doesn't reach that. The sensor on the back will extend that for a little bit. But if it reaches it within half an hour, the sensor on the back will then reduce the velocity of this and reduce the amount. So you might have someone that's left a window open and a lot of it just rushes out the window. Or you might have a scenario where they've calculated it wrong and you actually need it on for half an hour, not 1 hour. And the sensor will go, well, actually, you've got to the saturation point, and it'll adjust. So normally you can say in 30 cubic meters, the 5 litres will last 31 days. If you're using half of that, it will last 2 months. Yeah, if you're using twice as much, less. So it's a good indication of how much solution you use as well, that you can use these to work out.
So obviously to a customer that people are going into, we can use this to show them where it's getting to. But there are obviously going to be customers that go, absolutely, I want you to prove exactly what it's done. So they would want something like the swab test. I think when we initially started the process, we worked with the chiropractors to do it.
Yeah, the one of the chiropractor was that, so their business is effectively touching people's skin, and they also do physiotherapy, they're doing sports massage and things as well. So they're skin to skin contact, yeah. And they were saying you can't open up because we don't know how this is transferred yet. So you have to just close. So when they got green light to open back up, they had quite high stringent things they had to do. Gloves, masks, cleaning things, changing oils and stuff they used there. But they also had to do things like, they normally have a client seen every 15 minutes, and they've got 6 rooms with different people seeing someone. So they've 6 people doing treatments in rooms, a central reception area, a kind of waiting area, and then like a gym and testing rooms, things. So complicated building, all different shapes and locked doors in it. And they were told that they now have a 1 hour cleaning regime after each patient. So instead of 15 minutes for one person to see, they basically can only see one person every hour or every hour and a little bit. And then they had to prove clean. And then to prove that it was clean and safe was very difficult. They were told they had to do a test, which is this swab test, but it was £2,000 that sends off to an independent lab and back. So they did that, they proved it's clean to start with, then they come up with a cleaning regime to make sure that they're all safe, but they were still only down to 1 patient an hour. So there were like 4 patients per person a day, so it wasn't enough to pay the wages. So they put this in, and what they then done is they paid to do the tests again, and at the end of a patient leaving, etc., they took where the patient had been lying, and then the skin of a patient in the beginning, and tested those and sent them off to the labs. And now with this running at night time, they come in the morning and the place is sanitized, and then they turn it on a few times during the day. So they have a point where they empty the rooms between patients. They turn this on for, roughly speaking, 5 minutes. And then they bring the patients in 10 minutes later. So they've now got it up to, instead of 1 patient an hour, they're back to 1 patient every 20 minutes.
Wow.
So they've increased the money dramatically, the amount of people they can see. And they've done the test to prove, and got a certificate to prove that it's COVID-free and other things free.
So this is something that our customers can also use to put into their customers, to give them that extra peace of mind. To say, well, actually, we can do we can prove by doing a swab test that this is the case.
Yeah. So originally, when we were testing this and trialing this a few months ago, so we've been doing this for about, say, 4 months now. We were sending off to the lab and spending £2,000 a time. So we took the decision to actually buy the lab equipment and do it ourselves. And now we offer that to a service to your dealers for a few £100. And what you do is take one of the stickers, put it on an area so that you know that you're testing the same area over and over again. Mm-hmm. We push you the swabs out, so a group of 4 or 5 of these. So we'll send them out on a Monday. You get them on a Tuesday, FedEx. You swab the area down. So you'll take the desk and object and you'll swab it in a pattern. Put this back, break it, shake it, put it back in an envelope, post it back to us. We get it back the next day. We stick it into our lab machine and basically tell you the result. And then we can give you a clean score there and then. And we have a software that we can then give you access to that then shows you a clinical lab report.
So broken down report to be able to give back to their customer to show what's happened and what it's done.
Some of it is quite difficult to read because it's quite scientific, but to get to the NHS and World Health Organization guidelines, you basically need to have what they call a clean score. So there is an executive summary at the end of it, just a number. So if I drop that in there, I was already one in, into a quick test, it gives you a clean score number. And that's really all the insurance companies are interested in, because that proves that you're effectively clinically clean. You can eat the virus off of the surface, have no problems at all. It just tastes salty. So they're all inert, it killed everything.
Okay, and that's something that we can do for £200 for you guys, that then you can obviously pass that on to your customers to make sure. Again, obviously the particle sensor is something that I think is a great sales tool to show your customers that actually it's getting to certain areas within the building, but ultimately I'm sure a lot of them will want to see actually physically proof that this is what it's doing. I know there's been doctor surgeries where they've had to shut because of COVID, where we've managed to get them reopened by, you know, the swab test and the SmartMister back in.
Yeah, like a care home scenario where a patient had died and then they can't allow anyone to go in that room for 10 days afterwards. So they had to pay a cleaning crew, close the whole room down, or a classroom school where one of the kids is tested positive. So they've had to take all of the other 30 kids out and not use that room, and then go on the phone and find a company that has got the time to do a clinical clean. And they're busy at the moment. So you get those in, they take whatever time to do it, and they take 3 days to do it. And then you can open it. So it can be shut for anything from a week to 2 weeks to etc. So this you can basically put on a trolley, you can wheel it into that classroom, you can turn it on. The dealer that is maybe doing that for them can run around with particle sensor and prove that it's got to a certain level, and then an hour later take it out, let it settle, clean it off the surfaces, and then do a swab test to do an assurance document that says you're clinically clean, and then they're allowed to open up again because you've proved that it's clinically clean again, and take it down into being done within a few hours.
Wow. And I think the thing is, at the moment, obviously things have changed so much over the last few months, and obviously COVID is the thing that we're all talking about as far as what, you know, the SmartMister can do. But ultimately, going forward, even, you know, if that doesn't become the reality, you know, we all seem to have down days where office staff, you know, because of E. coli, you know, all the norovirus, that type of thing. It's not just COVID that this is going to kill. It's going to kill all those viruses as well on your surfaces.
It really is. So we as a company are doing a nighttime product, and then we intend to do a daytime product, release that soon. And then we've got a monitoring system that will screw in the wall, have a central software database that you can say, I own 100 care homes, I can sit in my office and I can see the state of the sanitation and air quality in all 100 places. But there's also things like pollen in the summer. We've got a chap in here and he suffers badly. When the pollen season's high, he's always on his mobile phone looking to see whether the next day is going to be bad. And then we used this in here. He didn't suffer from hay fever this year. We didn't tell him this was in. He just didn't think about it. But it removes all the pollen out of the air, and it removes mushroom spores in May as well out of the air. Also stops mosquitoes and things like that coming into your room. Okay. But there's many things. So when COVID mutates and it became COVID-21, and they announced it in February next year, the one that gives you stomach diarrhea and things. So when they announced that, this is already fighting there, because the EU number that we've got is for sanitation for all mammal harming viruses. So bird flu type things and all these things are covered as well, not just COVID. It's the whole family and all of the other things, but right into pollen and dust as well.
Exactly. I think that's the thing going forward. It's not just something to sell for now. I think we've all realised that everything needs to be a bit cleaner. I mean, it's never going to get away from cleaning your surfaces, because that ultimately, you know, if someone spills some porridge, the SmartMister is not that clever that it's going to wipe it up, but it'll make sure that that porridge is sanitised on the surface. So, you know, absolutely right. So what we'll do is we will unmute everyone and pass some questions over, just in case anyone wants to ask any questions. There was one that's just been, so Stuart, if you could unmute everyone. I'll just ask one question as well, Ray. As far as the machine itself is concerned, could you put any types of different smelling type things in there, or I presume they wouldn't work because it's been modified?
Yeah, so you can see this. So there's if you press, there's a little drawer at the bottom, and you can put essential oil type things in the bottom of that. So you saturate the bottom of this with whatever oil you choose. So we tried a lot of them in citrus, ones like tangerine or rose work really well. Things like lavender are horrible. They don't work. So you take that, put that in, there. Yeah. And then what happens is that in the back of it, there is a activated carbon filter and then a HEPA filter here. It pulls air in through the back, and it then puts a UVC light in to kill any germs and things that was in the air through there. So the carbon filter stops things like spiders and stops human hairs and other big things. And then particle size drops down to 12 microns. And then we put UVC light in. At that point, just after the UVC light, the smell that you put in the essential oil is then mixed with the air. And then when it adopts the hydrochloric acid, it then puts the smell in, and it then changes the smell in the room. But on the trials that we did with all the test customers, the majority of people, apart from one, actually prefers the smell that's natural, because
I was just about to say I prefer the actual smell of the SmartMister solution because it smells clean.
It smells like the seaside. It's a bit like the chlorine they used in swimming baths a long time ago. It's not actually chlorine, but it has that smell to it. So yes, you can change the fragrance that's in the air if you want to put something in. And I've got a list of ones that I've tested. Rose and tangerine work the best for the coverage. So even over 80 cubic meters, you can still smell the rose oil. About 30 cubic meters for tangerine.
Okay.
They vary. But yeah, you can change them.
Cool. All right, has anyone got any questions?
Hi there, Andrew Skelton. What type of warranty does come with the box, please?
So at the moment, it's a standard manufacturer's warranty of 1 year. We can also do an extended warranty for 2 or 3 years. We just haven't worked that out yet. It's still brand new to us, and we haven't done all of the extra things like that yet. It depends on if you're doing a proper maintenance. So if you buy our cleaning kit, which is got everything right, so you can't degrade it, then we're happy about offering an extended warranty. But it boils down to cleaning the unit. There's only one major part that can break inside it. And that's not an expensive part to change, so it should last. It's just difficult to know. A similar product to this, it's manufactured by Panasonic, is put into hotels, and they have an expectancy of about 5 years to last. This we just don't know, because we've only been doing them for 4 months, so we don't know how long term. As long as you clean it, I don't think there'll be any problem. I've tested ours for 4 and 6 months, never cleaning it, never doing everything wrong, to see how quick I can break it. I've put things in there that I shouldn't have, just to try and break it in. It so far, 1 year, no problem.
And I think that's the thing. Ultimately, the one thing that we know works and works well in it is the SmartMister solution, and that is the only thing that we will warranty this product with. So you buy the two together, and you will not have any problems with it. The 1 year warranty will be absolutely there. We've done a lot of testing with it.
Just let me clarify on the solution. This unit has been tested in a lab to make sure that we get the exact amount of parts per million based on this solution. If you buy somebody else's one that's got the same word hydrochloric acid on it, then the parts per million might be different, and then you won't get the regulations then. So it's calibrated, it's been in a gasification machine to test what's coming out of it and get the particle sizes right and the velocity right.
And again, it's just going back to that thing, this has been developed for you guys and for you guys only. There is no competition out there for you. So, to buy the 2 5-litre bottles, I think it's around about the 20 quid mark. So, it's a good price for you guys to be able to sell into your customers as well. And you shouldn't need to, shouldn't even be thinking about the possibility of using anything else. It is a package, it comes together. That's the way I want to see it.
And if you look up Amazon, they're £40 each from other suppliers. So they're expensive things.
Yeah, I mean, I've spoke to dealers. I mean, we've done this now for 3 or 4 weeks on the Q&A session, and there are dealers that are building it into contracts. So, for example, 50 quid a month, you'll get 1 5-litre bottle of the SmartMister solution with that. If you need any more, then you will be charged. There's all different ways of you guys trying to make it so it's a serviceable machine in the same way that you would with a copier. Oh, is everyone still muted?
Any other questions?
Thought we're unmuted, everyone. Stuart, good. Okay. Has anyone else got any?
They've
questions?
been asked to unmute, so they can do if they want to.
All right. Okay. Has anyone got any questions?
I can hear a voice in the background, but it's not.
I think he hasn't got his microphone on. So Stuart was just asking, so a 5-litre of the SmartMister solution, how long will that last?
In an average room, 31 days. In a small room, double that. It's based on the cubic volume of the room, so about 31 days normally on an average system.
Okay. You're all a quiet bunch this morning. This is unusual. Normally we're getting questions flying in.
No other questions?
No other questions this morning? The one that I've got then was just about as far as the product itself, will it cause any problems to like surfaces? Will it hurt any of your computers or mouse, that type of thing, printers?
No, it's a dry powder that, no, it doesn't. So if you want to be clean, the powder you should be wiping off as part of a normal cleaning process. So if anything, it helps you see the powder that forms after a few months. If you don't clean it, helps you find out where you've not cleaned. But if it lands on a computer or a mouse, a light switch, it doesn't do it harm. The only exception to that is that it will accelerate a non-painted metal rust in certain scenarios. So if the humidity is high in your area, you live by the seaside, it can make non-painted metal rust a bit quicker than usual. But that's just the same as if you were living next to Blackpool in the sea air would do the same. But most things, no, it doesn't cause problems.
And I suppose in the same way with like any cleaning product over time, whereas this is more, it's just an actual, because I suppose the only thing with it is if there's nobody cleaning, that's the one thing that you say where it will leave almost a white dusting, but you actually think that's quite a good thing.
Well, that dust is a hostile environment to pathogens and spores. So anything that lands in that white dust dies instantly. So it's unsightly and it takes a few months to build up. Doesn't do it overnight sort of thing. But that dust that builds up over a large time, if you don't wipe it off, which you should be doing, is a hostile environment for pathogens. So I recommend you clean it off, but if you don't, so if it's on the top of a bookshelf and it's 2 meters up there, the top of that bookshelf will have a white dust on it. But any, spiders won't like it, bugs won't like it, and pathogens will die if it goes near it. Yeah, so it's a good thing that way.
Cool. So we've got we've spoke about all the different levels that the EN levels and the European levels that it adheres to. What we'll do after the meeting is we'll make sure that you all get a little email just with a link to the video that we've done today, with all the information that we've spoke about, with Q&As that you might get asked from your customers, all the EN levels and EU levels that the product adheres to, information on the snap tool as well, and the cleaning materials. And if there's any questions that you guys can think of at all afterwards that you want to ask Ray or ask myself or your account manager, then please get in contact with us, because we think this is a really good product for you guys to be able to help your customers to keep safe, but also as an extra selling tool for you guys out there.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks all for joining us, and we hope to see you all again.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a good day all.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.